Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. Today we're doing a wee bit of a buck duck muck duck buck duck buck duck buck buck duck 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 muck buck. ברוך אתה אלוהים אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר כיסנו במזותיו וציוונו להיטטה בציצית. ברוך אתה אלוהים אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר כיסנו במזותיו וציוונו להיטטה. ברוך אתה אלוהים אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על נטילת ידיים. אמן. ברוך אתה אלוהים אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על נטילת ידיים. אמן. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله وابها 道可道非常道名可名非常名 Já Rastafari Deus nos te que esse cielo santo fakito no mentu Bahegu sana Baruch ata Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. Kyrie eleison Sivamastu sabe jigatehi sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata Fagabiyam Aquaba upendo na aman Kyrie in Islam Cinta dan pramil Libovini Umajaga Ubuntu Shubono Fakitga 谢谢，感谢你，那么阿拉个，那么也了我，多个多个是，多个的，那 we thank you for all the blessings. Ata jamia yata afana, ado, aho, shanti shanti shanti. So this mukbang features rice, basmati rice, brown basmati, blah blah blah. Well, first, how about we do the first things first? Water, straight from the tap, basmati rice, and then I'm not trying to do any commercial joints or whatever, but this is some processed I'm just giving I have to give due honors and respects to the providing kinfolk, so that's what it is. So this is contributions and received, appreciated, nourishing, comparatively healthy. Try to stay away from processed food, to be honest, but this is amidst the processed food genre. This is comparatively joint. Yo, buttons are missing on this shirt. Partnership is solicited in a due respectful way. Orange, lemon. Maybe gorilla mode on this. I have to go gorilla mode on an orange, because that's just stupid. Haha. That's the first time I've ever said that in a long time. Nothing stupid is as stupid proclaims. It's not stupid, but it is next level type of mukbang. Yo, it's thicker. So we see what we do on that one. The ants are already here. The ants are in the dance. So in this mukbang, I'm gonna eat something first before I get into it, because I've got notes again, and this kind of just like jumps into it. So before I like jump into it, I'm gonna like to relax a little bit for the moment. Because that's proper. That's actually obligatory. Am I going to do this whole little thing? I think so. How about that? And to be honest, I was getting fit, yeah. Dropping weight, yeah. Walking, exercising, eating basmati rice, and staying away from processed stuff. On the very disciplined economy type joint, and just getting that. It's still progressing in that respect, generally. But then, amidst the recent contributions, generous, beautiful contributions from generous, beautiful kinfolk. Oh, come on, ants! See, I don't want to eat ants, and that's what I'm concerned about particularly. Um, and I know I'm in your hood. I'm in your hood, yeah. You want to share, but if I share, yo, it's gonna be crowded. This one is all up in the bowl. Don't know what flavor. There. All up in the bowl, like in the crevices, and trying to like figure out its way out. So at the moment, it ain't a concern. But can you see this? That's what I'm talking about. Can you see me? Can you see me running? Get out. Uh-oh. I think we done did it. All right. Beauty, because I don't think ants are kosher. Definitely not vegan. Well, actually, I guess that's arguable depending upon people's definition. But vegan is not the standard. To be honest, it's. How about we gotta have like a word from Jane tradition from Janie? Is it Janie? There's a brother holding a branch. It looks different. It's actually probably not a branch. It's actually probably a tree. How about that? So I mentioned I was fitting up, getting better, getting healthier. Not waking up with aches. And then recently, with recent provisions, some of those provisions included processed sugar joints, which I try to stay away from. But it's very difficult to say no when it's part of the package deal. So it's accepted without even like looking. Just took it, and then it's sitting there. And that's not the best circumstances for me. So the what's it called? That mode where we just annihilate teens, and by annihilate, I'm talking about like just huge consumption. What's it called? Freudian blockage. That mode when we just overdo. There's a purge, binge. There it is, binge. So just because it's a mental thing. That's been my thing for my life. What I recognize is because eating food makes my parents happy. That's a natural thing, and so I just naturally find it, so that continues to happen. So even just something sitting there in the cupboard, that weighs on my mind, and that affects my concentration, because then I gotta like discipline myself away from that, and so it's much easier for me to just abstain from having it than for it to just sit there and wait. Even like if it's for somebody else, even if it's for a special occasion, whatever. Like it takes some doing for me to do that. I can do that, but it takes some doing. And when I'm deep in some stuff at the moment, it's easier for me to just be like, let me just have this, let me relax a little bit. It is comforting. There's a pleasure element and all that other type of stuff. So anyways, all that being said, I done had the most amount of sugar that I've had. Probably, in the past few days, I probably have had as much sugar as I've had in a year, in recent years. That much, seriously. The term glucose It's called a when somebody is unconscious or something. It's called a not catatonic. It's comatose. So glucose comatose. Um, and that's a little bit less hyperbole, obviously, because I'm functioning, but I consider the susceptibility of that. So, anyways, lots of sugar, seriously, in the past couple of days. So my health, just in the past day or two, has increased. My not my health, my weight, and additionally, just in the past day or two. So we're back on the brown rice and a wee bit of the process. We could use a napkin, but we've got rains recently, in recent days and weeks. The water levels are higher than earlier in the year. I'm thinking the band of sparrows that visits our outdoor vegan cafe, our outdoor terrace vegan cafe, strictly members only, wings primarily. The sparrows that visit might be a different band of sparrows. Like there might be some migration going on because the behavior is very different than earlier this year. Not a bad thing, just different. Yes, a little bit louder, but at the same time further comfortable, like chilling out, like posting up and be like, yo, what's happening? What's going on? What's popping? When there's no food. So, I'm not mad. Some people might want a second opinion. I shared with brother earlier today that it is impossible to hate me. It is impossible to hate me. That is not hyperbole. That's facts. And the reason why that is, that's not arrogance. That's not impiety. That's facts. Why? Because I refuse to hate. And what I've learned in life as a grown man who's did his growing, but at the same time we all can learn. We all do learn. And when we learn, we grow. That being said, what I've learned, particularly in recent years, is when we refuse to hate, we give no grounds to be hated. Cats can do nasty things to us, atrocities to us, torture, affliction, all this other type of stuff. But then at that point, it's not from hate. It's from a robotic, non-thinking mindset. Hate at some point has to be justified. Cats can get caught up in propaganda, but eventually cats have to think about that. And if cats have done some things and then seen hateful responses in return, then that just fuels the hate. But see, I told you, blah, 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 blah. When they do some things and they see just like wickedness, wicked. How about that one? Wickedness. In response, they say, "Oh, see, I told you, they don't care about themselves. They don't deserve that." But when they receive like something formidable, stoic, that's not hatred. That's not acquiescence. Can't hate that. Seriously, like, no, I can't. I'm somebody who tries to avoid speaking in absolutes, and I'm somewhat provocative in saying this to be provocative, to invite consideration in discussion, because the only one who can truly argue it is somebody who practices it, not hating, and not just for a week, not just for a day, not just for a month, not just for a year, thoroughly. One could only argue against that from after living it. Genuinely, and it's not living it for the sake of being able to argue it. That's not how it works, because it's not genuine. And as our ancestors, prophets, and sages teach us, when we do live that way, we discover the truth within it. Because it's love. It's love. You cannot hate love. And love cannot hate you. Some people talk about a thin line between love and hate, but that's not truly love. That's overcompensation. That's insecurity. Other things. Desire. Greed. Lust. Jealousy. That ain't love. So people can talk about passion, this and the other stuff. They'll be moved by passion, can see it, feel it when people talk like that. But there's a difference between passion and true love. Which also reminds me, I'm thinking about Stevie Wonder. Why am I thinking about Stevie Wonder when I say true love? I'm thinking about the song As. Change your words into truth and change that truth into love. That universal sense, because that's what true love is. It's universal. Loving trees. We're all our relatives, and additionally, that's the nature of true love. Love and truth. Truth, love. It's synonymous. It's universal. There are appropriate ways of how we relate with beings in life on this earth. How we share that true love with a wife, with a husband, with parents, with our elders, with children, with our brethren and sistren. There are different ways we that. We have the Wu Lun, the 5 relations that Kung Fu Zi teaches us, that comes from ancient China, that guide us in how we share that true love. But the nature of that true love is universal. And it's not even mutually exclusive or antithetical to hate. Love is all. Love is everything. Love is like the universe. It's the nature of things. Now, talking about Stevie Wonder, I told with some brethren recently, I did say this. I was doing some work, and I could hear some music being played. And I love music. I love all types of music. And I've shared that before. Hey again. Peace and blessings to you. What's that?
I said I'll see you later, but you'll probably be gone, but I'll be back.
We'll be around somewhere. We make the circles.
You have a good one.
All right, you too. See it. This mosquito right here. Oh, it's eating it up. I got enough of them bites though. So, I was listening to some music. I could hear some music. I wasn't listening. I could hear it. And like I said, I love all music. Now, I vibe with some music further than I vibe with other music, but I respect all music. And I appreciate just musicality. That being said, there's some ignorant things, and I don't listen to that. I can appreciate the production. I don't appreciate the lyrics. I can appreciate when cats are singing off key, this, that, and the other, learning and like just expressing themselves and being true in that expression. Truthful, being genuine within that expression. But earlier this week, I began recognizing something, and this didn't begin this past week, but it kind of just precipitated the aha moment, which is I can feel, like literally feeling, by feeling, not talking about like I can vibe with, I can feel, I can sense the life that a person is living by the music, by the way the person is singing. Particularly easily by the way the person is singing. So, for example, or as a quasi example, if a person is singing and that person was drinking last night and is like hungover, I can feel that. I can feel like the weight of that expression, of that experience. I can feel, and I was talking to a brother recently about Stevie Wonder, about Like Stevie Wonder is like the three musicians I've shared before that I listen to the most, and like most intently, and it's been that way for over 20 years. I listen to all music. Most of the music I listen to is not in English at this point in my life for years and years. It's other languages. But that being said, for the aggregate of my life, particularly for over the past, about 20 years or so, the three most musicians that I listen to the most are Stevie Wonder, Bob Marley, and Sade. And so all that being said, each one talks about universal love, and what I just communicated. But at the same time, each one also gets into the salacious, the objectification of partnership, of sexual partnership and relationship, and additionally, all the pitfalls and the love songs, the sad songs, and everything else like that are part from that experience. And it's too late. I'm in it now. I'm in it, and I've let go of a lot of the things I listened to as a child, as a youngster, because there's little redeeming message and quality to a lot of the popular culture that I listened to growing up. There's some that I continue to listen to because there is something redeeming. There's something that's needed to be communicated and continued, because there's very little else around that provides a similar communication. So there's certain things I still listen to, even though I find a lot of it disagreeable. And the preponderance of what I received from Stevie Wonder, Bob Marley, Sade is extremely positive and needed, necessary. There's certain songs that I don't listen to, or that I keep some distance from, because I see the unhealthiness within it. And this particularly pertains to the relationships, sexual interaction that's uncommitted, and knowing what happens after that. The mental pain and suffering that people experience, physical pain and suffering, heart pain and suffering, spirit pain and suffering. And so I've had the recent experience I've had this for a number of years. When I listen to Stevie, when I listen to Bob, and knowing that I don't listen to certain songs, when I listen to the positive songs that talk about God, that talk about lifting, that talk about getting through struggle, that talk about supporting each other, and that are genuine, like beautiful songs and messages, I can still hear the experiences and the pain that people have experienced from listening to other songs. I've shared, for example, like there's actually I'm going to be a little bit explicit here, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I'm just giving this as an example because this is necessary for people to recognize, particularly for people who are conscientious and who are very selective in who they listen to recognize that this is just part of the music industry. And I'm not going into that spiel about the whole system and this and the other, but I'm just talking about the ones that we still listen to, that we still mess with, and we kind of turn the other way when it comes to recognizing that even those kinfolk who are part of the systemic distribution system and promotion and marketing and everything else like that are contributing to that culture of exploitation. And it's not just a matter of, so I'll give you an example. This is a specific example. And I'm not throwing Uncle Bob, I'm not throwing teacher, professor, beautiful, holy, and respected Bob Marley under the bus. Not that's not my intention. I continue to listen to Bob Marley. I continue to love Bob Marley, respect Bob Marley. He is a teacher, and so I have reverence for him. That being said, I don't agree with everything, and this is an example of what I'm talking about. And it's difficult for me to again, cut everything off. I'm getting lots of bites marks now. So, but here's what it is. So, in the documentary Marley, which is a beautiful documentary film, Kevin McDonald directing. Ziggy Marley, I think, is a producer, executive producer on the film. I think he does a talk through on the DVD. So on the DVD, there's one of the bonus features is an audio recording where Bob is in the studio with two young sisters who are, I think, from England. And so, you can just imagine what the scene is. It's like two sisters who are like enthralled with a celebrity musician, rock star. They're in the studio, and he's having like a jam session there, just making some music on the riff, being flirtatious. The girls are responding, and so it's actually a little bit, again, it's salacious just listening to it because it's an actuality. Now, what's actually being said is comparatively innocuous. I mean, at the surface level, but it's just one who knows what that scene is, who's been in that scene, who's experienced that, like knows what the vibe is. So I'm not making any presumptions. I'm not making any accusations. But we do have to be mindful, and we do have to be accountable. Because again, we can turn the other way, and say, "Oh, we don't know this and the other." But for those of us who do that, when it happens to us, when it happens to our nieces, when it happens to our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, or whoever, we have less to say about that because we turned away when it was happening to somebody else's daughter, nieces, mother, sister, and additionally, wives, girlfriends. So, in that recording, that's what it was. And that's basically what it is. Now, that being said, we can make presumptions about what happened after that session, whether there was any interaction, any intimacies between Bob and the young sisters. Maybe not, maybe so. But we can consider this scenario when there have been intimacies, and what happens to the young sisters afterwards, particularly in a situation like that where the young sisters are English, of European ancestry, have those type of intimacies with Bob, go home, and then are rejected, categorically kicked out of the house, no place to go, have to run the street, maybe become prostitutes or something else. And that sounds like a hyperbole, that sounds like an exaggeration. That's an actuality. And it's beneficial to recognize that, because that's part of the cost of receiving the things that are provided. Because with that confidence, with that energy that Bob receives, that any musician receives from that kind of interaction, that charisma, that inspiration, we can call it inspiration, I guess, but that influence, that sparking of ideas and creativity, gets translated into the music. So even when the music is not talking about that type of experience, it's all connected. It's all connected. So even when we're just listening to the positive songs, and additionally, the ghosts are still there from the pain and other type of things. So that's what I meant, like when listening to music, being able to hear the life of the person by the way the person sings. The drunkenness, the salaciousness, the druggedness, or whatever else it is. Feeling that. And it's not a matter of being condemning or accusatory or belittling or devaluing or subjugating or anything else like that. It's just a matter of recognizing what's healthy, what's unhealthy. And anyways, earlier this week when I was doing my work and I could hear some music, I could feel like it's not just the angst of suffering or poverty or something like that. I could feel like the unhealthiness. And it's all love and peace to the kinfolk that I could hear singing, but I could just feel that. And I'm not perfect. I'm not some high mighty this and the other. I'm just saying, I can feel that. If cats feel something about how I sing, or even how I talk, or whatever else, let's chop that up, or turn off, or whatever else, or turn on and be like, you need some help. Thanks. I'm just communicating the experience, and I say that because it makes listening to music further, I should say, less of an escape, less of a entertainment, and further purposeful. It's been that way for a long time, but anyways, that's the situation concerning the music recently. Hi. So that is something that is experienced. Again, I'm gonna say music is beautiful. Bob Marley is beautiful. Stevie Wonder is beautiful. Sade is beautiful. Brother singing out where I'm at, sister singing out where I'm at are beautiful. All that. So, with all that said, we get half an hour into this joint. I'm done. And before actually, I guess I'll start getting into my joint whilst I have further sugar, natural sugar. And that's the other thing too, like being a vegan, particularly like with salad, eating primarily like vegetable salads. It's there's large amounts of that, and there's a number of reasons for that, but there's a mentality with that, like an elephant mentality, but just like, yo, here's trees, feast. So it's a matter of sitting down and taking a minute, getting into it. It's not like a hit and quit type of situation. Quasi gorilla. Let's try this. I think, to be honest, the thing that probably precludes me from going gorilla mode on orange is because I just have too much of a I won't say too much, but a significant past history. I'm just enjoying an orange, and again, taking a certain pleasure in eating like fruit in a convenient, comfortable way, rather than just going gorilla mode. So that might be the aesthetic involved. I'm uncertain concerning the nutritional quality of the orange covering. Rind just seems like a very derogatory term. But anyway, at this moment, we peeling out. So order, the juice done flowed when I lifted it up onto the technology. So order bar and the paperwork, the notes, and everything else like that. Juice upon juice. Hey. I was sitting in the park earlier this week with some romaine lettuce, and I went gorilla mode on romaine lettuce because that's nothing. But I have to wash the lettuce leaves one by one and look where there are insects, break off the portions where there is an insect, and then wash it. And so when I was breaking off the leaves, instead of like putting them into the receptacle as I am doing with this orange stuff, it's actually yellow, but it's from an orange. How about that? It's actually whitish or yellowish. Anyway, in the park with the leaves, I was tossing it into the onto the ground. Now the reason I'm doing that is because we got rabbits here, and rabbits eat that, and so I'm just like, I'm contributing to the wildlife. I'm not just the wildlife, to the park. Some people bring things for the birds. Some people bring things for children, other adults, whatever, kinfolk that they're meeting. What about the rabbits? The deer. I imagine deer eat that too. So anyway. It may look like I was just littering, but that would be to the untrained eye. We got some juicy juice on this joint. So, all right, here we're gonna get into it. Try to think of how sober I can be whilst eating an orange. So I'm gonna just slow up a little bit. I'm gonna invest in this mosquito bite to help in that sobriety. Scratchy scratch. Oh yeah. think I'm going to finish this orange before I begin, just because it helped to concentrate. So, this is the media term, at least on TV 20 years ago. Banter, keep going. We got time to fill. So, banter. How about silence? I'll give a segue into like the sober matters. I shared some things recently that are actually high potency. Talking about, I'll talk about off-grid embassies. Being in the system and being outside of the system, the disease of imperialism, and recognizing that people are predatory within that disease of imperialism. And conversations that abstain from discussing conditions outside of the experience and the intentionality of imperialism. Any conversation that doesn't intentionally go outside of imperialism, it's basically just running game for trying to get a bigger chunk of the disease of imperialism. And I don't mean that it's not intended as like sour grapes or vitriol or subordination, subjugation, or being derogatory. That's actuality. So all the things that people talk about in terms of being privileged, affluent, or whatever, having material trappings from standings and holdings within the imperialism, it's disease. But my point at the moment is not to get into all that, because I've shared a lot about that already. Excuse me. Oh, indeed, the gas arrives when I talk about disease and imperialism. So here we go into the joint. This actually may be comparatively brief because it's going to have to be. I got some obligations in the next few minutes. So here it is. Now we're getting right into it. We're talking about here imperialism, the disease, exploitation, and I've talked before about cults. The consideration of the United States being the United Cults of America, and that cults precede the existence of the United States. But the cults are the things that are the engines in the decision-making entities of the facades of institutions, politics, business, and additionally. And so there are all different types of cults. There are religious cults. Every religion is a cultish kind of a phenomena. There's religion, there's ethnic, tribal, familial, clan. There is sex cults, drug cults, satanic cults. Pedophilia is just consideration of LGBTQ is just extensions of sex cults. All the different secret societies that are premised on different things, affiliation and different premises for initiation or whatever. These are the secret societies, the secret circles that have what's it called, plutocratic tendencies. Some rise to further levels of influence, and many are congruent with each other. Many vie and are vehemently opposed with each other. So, anyways, but then it manifests itself in the public eye through politics, politicians, political parties, corporations, banks, universities, fraternities, all the different institutions that people see. Like these are just like the outgrowths, and like the facades, the front rooms of the actual like things that are going on. So all that being said, I am initiated into a sex cult at a very early age, before kindergarten, and when people think about that, they may think, one, is that serious? Is that true? Yes. Then they may say, oh, that's atrocious. That must have been horrible. No, actually, and to the best of my recollection, like in my initial stages of the initiation, it's actually pleasurable. It's actually like it's scintillating. And so, but I think for boys, that's like how it begins, and then it's a very slow and severe enslavement and encapsulation. So through years and years and years. Now what happens is that boy is initiated into the sex cult, and then most often because the parents are marginalized, don't have a lot of direct opportunities to provide for the child in terms of what the parents would like within society. Society is very, again, predatory, corrupt, and so the only ways of ascending when not having the credentials or whatever beforehand, is through acquiescing and submitting one's children to the system. And again, it's a gradual thing. It's not all just like, it's not like throwing children into a fire pit in like Molech or something like that. It's a slow, severe process of years and years and years. And in that process, the children are provided with opportunities, access to private school, and that's one scenario. It could be just scholarships. It could be entrance from a different school system, like going from the hood, the inner city, or whatever, to a suburban school system. It could be access to programs, after-school programs. I mean, there's a whole gamut of ways it's facilitated. And then it's depending upon how the child performs through the years. But the thing is, as the child matures and grows, and the allure, the benefit in the sex cult, the pedophilia cult, is less powerful, it's less potent than it is in the early years, because that's just the nature of things. The child relies increasingly on what the child produces, and well, that's not the road I'm going to on this particular joint. What I'm saying is that for the child, the abuse is very subtle. It's subliminal. It's manipulation, and at a very early age, and it becomes increasingly severe. So that, and it's guilt. It's a lot of guilt because the child experiences the pleasure, particularly a boy experiences the pleasure, but feels guilty about it for some reason, doesn't know why. But it's just a hidden thing. It's secret. Don't let it be known. If you do, trouble, embarrassment, not just for yourself, but for your family, this and the other. So never say anything. And meanwhile, those who have a knowledge about what's happening use it to trigger the boy, to manipulate, to influence, to get the boy to do things further, just to do regular things or whatever. It's always that thing. Parents can employ that guilt and just do a trigger word, trigger thing, hint at something, and then the boy just responds accordingly, acquiesces, because the boy feels that guilt and that weight, and additionally the shame and the insecurity, and further. So it's a lot of secrecy. It's a lot of manipulation, and those who have that type of power, that to wield that type of manipulation, that influence upon the boy, are comparatively fewer in number, generally speaking. Like only those who are in the close circle, who are trusted with the reins of the manipulation, to have the information about what the trigger words are, what the actual experiences are that are being referenced, whether it's experiences with other girls, whether it's experiences with adults or whatever. Only a few are privy to like the details of those things to be able to have access to the manipulation. And it's mostly friendly. It's all like, oh, da 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 da. So there's like a sense of comfort in it, but at the same time uneasiness. And it goes on for years and years, and it becomes increasingly severe. And the boy, like a boy, why would parents do this? Why would adults like want to do this and the other? Because there's a lot of power with children. There's a lot of influence, particularly amidst a society of corruption. There's like a lot of cosmic power influence that children bring, particularly when children are not corrupted. And so the corrupting a boy too quickly erodes that power, and that the adults can gain from that boy through years and years and years. But when the boy is like gradually corrupted and manipulated through years, it's increasingly lucrative and enduring for those who are doing it. So again, it's little hints, it's this, that, and the other, and there are a lot of carrot and stick type of scenarios, and I have to go back to my notes now for a brief second. But so again, like the circle is smaller, the circle might grow larger, and here's what happens in my experience. Eventually, like the circle gets beyond. The circle is always bigger than what the child knows, or what the child can even like suspect. But when the child becomes an adult, particularly when a boy becomes a man and is able to like put things together additionally, like by that point, like many people have that information. Many people like know the intimate like secrets, know the intimate stories, and additionally don't reveal it, but are able to manipulate and trigger in certain ways. And code words, sometimes those code things can be like a societal reference, so it's not like a direct reference to what the boy personally experiences, but there's still that relationship. So anyways, other adults, teachers, professors, even other classmates, particularly as the boy matures, and those who are trusted, those who gain some type of status within the hierarchies, are entrusted with some of the information to be able to have manipulation powers or abilities upon a classmate or otherwise. So that's a little bit advanced level game in the game, but that's the actuality. So this is the thing. Eventually, now, to call it out, one, a person seems crazy because where's your proof? Where's your evidence? What are you talking about? These people have loved you all their life. They supported you. They've been around all your life. They've gone to your graduation. They came to this. They supported that. Where is all this coming from? What's your evidence? Oh, you're talking about the things that you've done? Oh, so why don't you just talk about that? Why are you bringing everybody else into it? Why are you blaming on everybody else? Why aren't you taking responsibility yourself? So that's the scenario when accusing others or articulating those accusations. The other thing is also when doing that, cut off. Oh, you don't like being manipulated. Oh, you don't like this, that, and the other. No more benefits, no more carrots. There it is. And in this dog eat dog society of predatory, and additionally, a cat by a cat self is a very precarious circumstance. So it's very difficult to call those type of things out, particularly as a young adult, because that's when it happens. Like a young adult, still wanting to believe in the world, wanting to believe like there's order, there's justice, there's truth, this, that, and the other. And so like somebody's got to care. Like what about the law? Everybody's enveloped in the corruption. Do not look for justice on this earth in this life. That's not where justice is. And all those institutions that claim to be it and this and the other are just fraught within the mechanics of the corruption. That's nasty. It's tough. That's the actuality. There is justice, there is truth, there is love, there is genuineness in all of these truth, justice, and love. But it's not within the conventional constructs. It's not within the imperialistic mechanics. So when one is young and just like knowing that things are corrupt, at the same time, like somebody's got to care. Somebody's got like acknowledge this and like da 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 da. got to find a way oneself. And there are people who are practicing righteousness, and it's not altogether this, that, and the other. But anyways, point is, this is what I've learned from the game and how it works from my experience. It's this. Again, not to hate, because that just eats oneself up. Not to get mad, and not to try to punish or get vengeance or get revenge or anything else like that, because that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't stop. It doesn't satisfy. It doesn't heal. That's it. It might give a high for a minute. It might provide some relief for a minute. It might stroke an ego for a minute. It doesn't do it though. So what does it is finding truth and peace within oneself, and then sustaining oneself in an honest way as much as possible, and having a sense of purpose, recognizing that in life there is suffering. That's what it is. That's the nature of life, suffering. But at the same time, the purpose of life is healing, and that in that yin and yang, we each have a talent, we each have a skill to provide that healing. And so when we recognize that within ourselves, we cultivate that within ourselves, like we practice, we hone that skill, and we share that. The universe supports us beyond the powers that be. Boom, 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 boom. The convention, parents, and this year, we love our parents, we honor our ancestors, but beyond any man or any woman, the universe supports us through each and every man and each and every woman, and so it's for us to optimize our honesty and optimize our compassion and optimize our modesty within ourselves, and then and share that, share the benefits of that as much as possible, to be whatever we accept, to understand the purpose of it, not just to accept it to have it, but say, what am I going to do with this? How does this strengthen and nurture me to provide the service of healing that I have in this universe? And so when we do that, we are stronger within our relationships and stronger with our connections with all life, with all beings, with all people, and additionally. And again, there's occasions saying, yeah, no, I don't need that. I can't use that right now. So yeah, it's very nice. It's very shiny. It's very big. So that's a lot. Somebody can use that, but I can think of things to use. But right now, like that's outside of my capacity right now. And now all that being said, it can be difficult to concentrate when talking about this particular experience of the sexual exploitation. But this is what I've learned specifically concerning those who have the information, who do the manipulation. And it can be insidious. It can be infuriating. Like people, and it can be extremely difficult to call out. Like people like making hints about things I've done in my childhood. Like they weren't even born when I did these things, and they're trying to like manipulate me and my conscience and everything else like that, through all these facades and pretenses that are very difficult for me to decipher, to call it out as it is, because otherwise it just sounds crazy. So what I've learned is that those who have the information to pull those strings and everything, like have the quote unquote goods on me, and can call me or whatever else, they're actually under my power. And this is not a matter of again, predatoriness or control, but this is the nature of how it works. Those who are privy with the information in the cult situation are subordinate within the hierarchy of the cult. And as long as the victim, the boy, the child, even as an adult, as long as the victim abstains from like intending harm or hate towards members of the cult, and additionally, and this is my experience. I can't say it's absolute. I can't say it's categorical, but I'm just communicating the nature of the experience that I have. If somebody doesn't call that out, and isn't trying to like out to get kinfolk, the kinfolk are actually subordinate. The highest ranking kinfolk in the cult are actually subordinate, like are dependent upon the powers of the victim, and that's like the paradox of the circumstances. So as much as there's manipulation and everything else like that, the mechanics of what I observe, and this I'm going to say seemingly, but there's a significant amount of confidence in this assertion, is that those who are pulling those strings, and additionally from the very top of the cult's kind of experience, And to like, I'm unaware of there being an organizational chart or whatever that describes the hierarchy with these, but the higher kinfolk are in the joint, the further dependent the kinfolk's lives are to the ideas and actions of the victims. And so when a victim is like working with like a peer group that's like on the similar level, and that peer group is made privy to the information, that peer group can utilize that information to manipulate the victim. But at the same time, that peer group is actually subordinate to the victim. The lives of the peer group are actually at the hands of the victim, even when the victim is unaware of that. And the people who are the peer group who have that information are aware of that, and that's why it's a very precarious kind of like exchange between the predators and the victims in those type of cult situations. So anyways, that's what I experienced. So the point with that is with kinfolk who experienced that type of affliction, and additionally, again, to cultivate that tranquility, that peace, that sense of purpose within oneself, recognizing the divine spirit exists within us, and to continue in life in a purposeful way of healing, not to get angry, not to seek vengeance and retribution, but to walk in a disciplined, righteous trod, in a disciplined, righteous deen and path, and continue to welcome and invest in reconciliation, but at the same time to abstain from investing and depending excessively upon those that endeavor to continue manipulating and abusing and being predatory. So that's what I'm going to leave it at this point. One thing I say is it's beneficial for those who experience that type of exploitation to focus on the peace and well-being of all, and that is one of the solutions towards getting beyond the manipulation of the cult, because again, that's connecting with the universe and fulfilling our purpose and gleaning the genuine and thorough, even omnipotent support of the universe accordingly. So the well-being of all, oneself and all. That being said, on to the next topic of LGBTQ. I was talking with kinfolk recently about this topic, and I've discussed it a number of occasions before, and my point isn't to get all up in it at the moment, but one, again, is a review that LGBTQ, all due respect, love, and peace to all kinfolk of all persuasions, but to recognize LGBTQ is just about sex. Plain and simple. It's not about love. It's about sex. It's about the freedom. It's the freedom of orgies. To be honest, it's the orgy liberty, but it's just it's advocacy for sexual gratification based on individualism that has a susceptibility towards narcissism, yes, but even further than narcissism, nihilism, of just apathy and not caring. It's actually it's LGBTQ is actually one of the signs and symptoms of the decline and degradation of civilization, and that's a very strong kind of proclamation, because LGBTQ exists through the ages. But when it becomes prevalent within the society, when people become further enveloped in the notion of self-gratification and devalue the experience of family, children, the relationship between parent and child, and all of that is involved in LGBTQ. By saying all of that, the LGBTQ categorically devaluates traditional family, devaluates the natural relationship between parent and child. The Republic also devalues traditional family, and which is why the Republic and LGBTQ are connected very proximately with each other. So those are signals of the decline of civilization, because that devaluation of like foundational relationship in life, in human life, just shows the deterioration of the aggregate of the perspective towards life. as it applies to all relationships and all interactions. And additionally, it just becomes a hedonistic kind of a very sophisticated, technologized, hedonistic culture and society, and that doesn't last long. So something emerges, something happens, and that's just facts. So that's what history, that's what the eternal teaches us. So all that being said, when I've said this before, but when I'm growing up, back in particularly in the 90s, late 80s, LGBTQ is increasingly becoming increasingly known and mainstream, but it's still a fringe kind of underdog thing, and that actually has a way of endearing many people, particularly young people, and because the LGBTQ looks as the underdog, and then so when people beat people up, people come to look at high school experiences and see like the people, those who are called quote unquote queer or whatever else are abused, and they're not even doing anything to anybody. It seems like it's easy for any empathic youth and like thoughtful youth to like, yo, why are you treating a person like that? They're not doing anybody anything, and they see like the people who are doing it, the bullies who are just like knuckleheads or whatever else, and so they just see this binary of knuckleheads and we can say punks or whatever else, but punks is not necessarily LGBTQ, but just the queer kinfolk. So knuckleheads and queer kinfolk, and just be like, yo, like the youth who are like on the side of justice are like on the side of the queer, because it's like, yo, don't do people like that. Now that was 30 years ago though. Now today it's different, because through the past generation, and I've been in the meeting rooms, and I've been in like the brainstorming sessions or whatever that planned this ascension within the hierarchy of the imperialism, of imperialism, through specific campaigns, stage by stage, and focusing on specific issues. First it was adoption rights, and then it was reproductive rights as a way of the adoption rights as a way of having access to children, and the energy and of being able to stay in life, because adults without children become very weak, and so adults need children. I had that talk before. I shared that during before. So the adoption rights 30 some odd years ago for LGBTQ to adopt children is a way of securing immediate access to children, like unabridged. And so there's that, and then the other issue was marriage, because that helps to secure the institutionalization of LGBTQ and make it further mainstream. And so that is established 30 years ago, thereabouts, through targeted campaigns, and then it builds and builds and builds. So now, just within a generation, LGBTQ is highly established within the institutions, universities. There's LGBTQ programs all over the place. Rainbow flags all over the place, municipal building, parks, and additionally, it's mainstream. Going online, major institutions, ethnic-based institutions, then additionally have some type of LGBTQ program, and additionally, so it's huge. So now it's like deep in the game now, not always deep. It's always it's entrenched within the game, and it has status within the imperialistic structure. So now it's not an underdog at this point. And so that notion of being the victim, and additionally is or out, because individuals could be the victim, but LGBTQ is not the victim. And indeed, at this moment, LGBTQ is not the catalyst, but it's the facilitator of the evolving science-based apartheid within the world system, whereby marginalized groups are increasingly either just snuffed out, further incarcerated through hospitalization or some type of dependency within the system, or just extremely demasculinated. So just severe devaluation of manlyhood, manliness, and so for those kinfolk and collectives that are increasingly vulnerable, it's very severe consequences. Otherwise, it's a matter of getting on board the LGBTQ, being sterilized essentially and not procreating, in order to have some type of access and key to some of the hierarchy, to the middle ground, to the middle class in the evolving apartheid of the world system. So an LGBTQ are like the gatekeepers of that. Now, there are other ways of maintaining a stake within the hierarchy of the world system through religion, through tribal affiliation, and additionally, but even then, it becomes increasingly competitive, and it ain't pretty for men, particularly. So, anyways, LGBTQ is now firmly established, and because of that, um, less there's less of an air of legitimacy within LGBTQ. Um, and again, it's part of what I've described before as the sterilization culture of mainstream. That is part of the culling of the global human population. And so that sterilization culture is part of establishing a normalization of infertility, not having children, not being able to have children, and additionally, so LGBTQ is an ascendant facilitator of this. It's like it's the middle managers, it's the middle class. It is the Kshatriyas, the Kshatriyas of sterilization, maybe something around there. Anyways, that's the next thing. And I have a conversation with a brother earlier this week on the topic of the utilization of rainbows. And at this point, it's beneficial to recognize the rainbows just as the new swastikas. And that can be, for some, a very severe statement, but it's actually true. It's actually, again, it's facts. Because when you look at the history, swastika is actually a very holy symbol within Desi culture, within the traditions of India. The swastika is a symbol of auspiciousness. It's put on temples, and it symbolizes. There's actually a further involved description of what the actual image symbolizes. And in some traditions, again, obviously they say don't make any graven images, but it's difficult to make that argument because there are graven images within every tradition. So the swastika is one, and I won't say necessarily the swastika is a graven image per se, just like the Magin David is necessarily a graven image, or the Star and Crescent is necessarily a graven image, but the swastika is along those lines. And there's this symbology of heaven and earth, and additionally the doors and windows that are represented through the swastika, the different rooms that go to the different places. So anyways, there's a religiosity with the swastika. So 100 years ago, when the Deutsch political machine is emerging, whatever, utilizes the swastika as a symbol for Nazism, which is horrendous. It's appropriation. It's way beyond appropriation, but that's what it is. And so now, in today's mentality, for many people who are ignorant of the history of the swastika, just associate it with the hatred, the violence, the atrocities, the genocide, the Holocaust that is committed by Nazis, and that's huge devaluation. And there's intentionality with that as well, to associate a holy symbol from another culture with the atrocities that a different culture that commits. Same thing with LGBTQ. The rainbow is a sacred, beautiful symbol. And we were talking about Torah. There's the Torah. The rainbow is a symbol of the covenant between God and man, and assurances and comfort and security. And so now the rainbow is being utilized as a symbol for orgies, for sodomy, for sexual liberation, not sexual liberation, sexual freedom and promiscuity. That's what it represents. And so the rainbow, particularly, children respond to it because it's natural. I'm not big on Roji Biv because I only see 6 colors in the rainbows that the LGBTQ sports. And that's another topic, and I gotta go. So anyways, it's appropriation. It's atrocious appropriation because where the Nazis employed violent tactics to impose a will, LGBTQ employs sexual exploitation and manipulation. And so when the flags are being flown over city halls, over parks, and not in it, it's very imposing. It's very imperialistic, just like with the swastika. It's territoriality, it's predatoriness. It's beyond a political agenda. It's an exploitational agenda. But it's been able to assert itself through this guise of being quote unquote the underdog, because in the aggregate of the imperialistic system, particularly the ethno xenophobic elements of the hierarchy within the imperialist system, LGBTQ can still feign that claim of being underdogs, but at the same time, in the aggregate, it's able to ascend and gain some position as the very monolithic underdogs, and employ that position of hierarchy within the imperialism of increasingly and unduly subjugating and exploiting other kinfolk. So that's part of the woefulness of the LGBTQ, and there are those who are woke and those who are just woke. Anyway, love and peace to all the LGBTQ. That can seem false initially, but I'm just calling things out. And it's particularly difficult because there's been a lot of trust and a lot of invested in LGBTQ kinfolk and causes through the years, and there's a significant and very woeful betrayal of those investments and trust. Now, again, ultimately, we only have ourselves to blame, and there's to be no expectation and no obligation, but it's a matter of recognizing, so that as solicitations for ongoing trust and investment are made, it's just a matter of like, nah. So, love and peace to all, harmony, health and well-being, honesty. Let's be honest about these things. Let's be honest. Imperialism, LGBTQ. Plain and simple, enough said. In this experience of actually, I have to do this because of that, this and that, this and that, this and that, because da, 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 da. Excuse me. Alright, so Gobbling will wrap this up in about 10 minutes. Actually, seriously, about 10 minutes. So, that's that. Now, on to another topic, the next topic, which is the experience of the world system. Very briefly, there's the whole phenomenon of boxes, identity, pigeonholing, identity politics. It's pigeonholing politics on a pirate ship that is turning into a submarine with much less capacity. So it's a matter of just like people just being reduced to like these predetermined boxes, and then policies being made based upon those box affiliations. So it's systemic, it's robotic, it's algorithmic. It may seem very efficient or effective or otherwise, but it's just an echo chamber of affirmation until the annihilation. Like the train can be going speedy and like be very smooth on the rails, whilst the rails are headed off the cliff. So people are looking at the wrong things when making those type of assessments. So all that being said, there's something to recognize in terms of like how the system works, particularly like this world system, which is this. One, it is a matter of temporary mastery. Two, numero dos, it is a matter of quick shifts. And tres is a matter of organized record. So the temporary mastery is that people are cultivated in the system. People are trained and encouraged and compensated and motivated to gain a temporary mastery to something. So like cram, learn how to do it. Learn how to do something that's very beneficial in how the system works, and then do it for like a very brief period of time. And that shift might be like a couple hours a day or whatever. It might be a contract for a year or 2 years, but it's not some type of time, a long-term thing. It's a very quick thing, comparatively speaking. High compensation when there's success and everything else like that, but there it is. And then it's a shift change. The next shift comes in and takes over, because it's often very grinding and it weights on somebody. It's very difficult to sustain, just like cramming for a test and just knowing everything right before the test, but then afterwards, forget it, turn them and burn them. So that's a quote from Wall Street, 1980s film. Anyways, so that's the methodology of the world system, and across the board, generally speaking, particularly in a hyper-institutionalized normalcy. So there's that. Then there's again the rapid the rapid shifts, the shifts. It's like the security, like trying to go fight against a dude because that dude is just designed to fight for 30 minutes and then clock out and somebody else comes in. So it's just like cyclical. It just goes on. Everybody does their shift. And then the third element is that organized record, so that people trust in this methodology because there's record keeping. That's why the identity becomes so important, because that's people's record of like what they put in and what their balance is in terms of the compensation. And so that's from birth to death, from being born in a hospital and having stay, going to a residence, people's banks accounts, trust funds, pension funds. All these things are the methodologies of keeping a very accurate record and secure and trusted record about people's investment, because in this process, people don't invest in the actuality of what's being done, about knowing an awareness about it, about the relationship, the continuity of these things, and like knowing that and being able to teach it by heart to somebody else. People don't invest in that methodology. People just invest in how much can be done at that moment, and then take a record of it, have proof of it, and then like bank off of it and continue to do that. So it's not an absolute thing. Like there's obviously degrees, but that's what's emphasized, and that's what becomes increasingly normal and like expected and trained. People being trained from the early stages, standardized, test, and additionally train that type of mentality. So again, awareness of that. There's a stand-up common routine that I share here, an idea of one about being married to the algorithm. That's just it's not essential at the moment. So we get into modern pluralism. Okay, so this is like the crux. This like here's some of like the productive, redemptive kind of solutions to the circumstances. Modern pluralism. Part of the deficiency, part of the tragic flaw within modern pluralism, is that it employs people to govern those who don't practice the same ethics. And so, for example, like if a boss is going, if office is going out to the restaurant having lunch, and the boss of the office like orders the food for everybody, like I'll take the responsibility of ordering for everybody. Okay, cool. But guess what? The boss, let's see, how about this? The boss drinks alcohol. Not everybody in the office drinks alcohol. So if the boss is making decisions saying, a round of drinks for everybody, hold up, half the dudes here don't drink. So that's problematic. And it's not just a matter of being culturally PC or anything else like that. That's seriously problematic on a societal scale, when governors, when presidents, when CEOs, and additionally are making policy decisions based upon personal behavior that not everybody practices, and that's against what other people practice. That's problematic. Same thing with food. The boss makes order for food and orders chicken wings for everybody. Half the people here are vegan. Half the people here don't eat meat. That's problematic. And again, like making decisions about sex. People who don't practice certain ethics should not be making decisions for people who do practice certain ethics. That's an individual basis in terms of people sitting around a table and deciding what to eat, but that's also at a societal level. People who drink alcohol should not be making decisions for people who don't drink alcohol. People who eat meat should not be making decisions for people who don't eat meat. People who have sex with whoever they want should not be making decisions for people who don't have sex with whoever they want. People who embark in drugs should not be making decisions for people who don't embark in drugs. And it's not a matter of better or worse. It's not a matter of evil or whatever else. It's just a matter of recognizing there's healthy and unhealthy. Some people don't choose those things because those things are healthy. People have the prerogative of doing what people want. There are consequences for everything we do, and that's on people to make their own decisions in a consensual kind of thing. But at the same time, when those people are making decisions about policies, about what society is going to invest in, what industries, what type of subsidies and behaviors are going to be supported within the society, and when those that are living unhealthy lifestyles are making decisions for people who are living healthy lifestyles or healthy behavior, that's problematic for society. Because what happens in that kind of pluralistic experience is that those who are the most popular amongst the masses, amongst the populace, are often those who are increasingly liberal when it comes to behavior, and thus when in positions of authority, and again, not necessarily making the decisions, but as a premise of making the decisions, are making decisions. It's that are not in the best interest or to the best well-being of the aggregate, particularly when the aggregate doesn't behave in the same way. And an example of that, I guess, is like the lowest common multiple, but it's basically like just it's the very least ethical standards. The people at the highest positions of the aesthetic of government, the aesthetic of governance, making the people at the highest levels having the least amount of ethical discipline and making the decisions or feigning the decisions for those who, and not everybody within society necessarily does practice those same kind of precepts of ethics and healthy behavior, but when the decisions are made by those who definitely don't, then that's problematic. So all that being said, here's a solution, here's a thought, here's an idea, fresh off the press, recently shared, and it's this: ethical welfare program. So the idea with the ethical welfare program, I'm getting bit up and scratching now. So the idea with the ethical welfare program is public subsidies. Like we've had social welfare programs, people being paid just because they may have injury, might be handicap, might just be out, whatever. So there's this notion of social welfare program, recognizing that it's beneficial for society to take care of those who can't take care for themselves, or of difficulty, whatever. And so there's no obligation. Like usually, people don't. There isn't like a requirement of like work or otherwise. Sometimes people are encouraged to do work or train for some type of employment, gainful employment. But anyways, the social welfare system, that's an ancient thing. It's a contemporary thing. It's a commonly known thing. So that's there. Now this is an ethical welfare system whereby people are provided with subsidization for living life in a similar way, but these people are actually able-bodied. These people just live in an extremely ethical way. That is very difficult to do within normal society. So it's a matter of supporting kinfolk in this cause. Am I being Freudian? Am I being like just veiled promotion of self? I'm dedicated to this joint. So that's what it is. People can call me self-serving or whatever in that respect, but it's actually a beneficial idea to consider. But the idea is public subsidized program for those who take a vow and practice a high standard of like comprehensive ethics. Ponticelus is one example: peace, sharing, chastity, honesty, and sobriety. So the society can say, these are the standards to qualify for this program. This is what's needed to qualify. Severe austerity. But when it's done, okay, here's your housing. Here's like the official housing for the people who are in this program. Maybe it's a campus. Here's the food situation. Again, particularly in a campus situation, growing your own produce or having a food co-op or whatever, and specific allocations in terms of budget or whatever that the co-op can utilize to secure purchases for those who are in the program. So, and no obligations, no report, nothing required in return, because that infringes upon the organic sharing that comes from the lifestyle. So there's always sharing, there's always reciprocity. But when we look at how this is historically done since ancient times, with the bhikshus and bhikkhunis, the sangha, the sadhus, even the kohanim, and additionally, it's a community that provides guidance to society, and so without the obligation. When people go to the Brahmin teacher, it's like with the materials that the Brahmin teacher needs as sustenance. That's a subsidization. It can be looked at as a tuition fee, but it's a matter of recognizing that the benefit is from the learning that is done without obligation. So, in this scenario, I seriously got to go. In this scenario, particularly like in the campus situation, of a subsidized campus for people who qualify for the ethical welfare program, the campuses become learning places. People just go to the campus to talk with people, get some insight, get some ideas, and not having to pay the people directly, because the people are already compensated by society, by the United Nations, by the national government, or whatever. So the individuals who visit, just like, can I chop it up with you? Yeah. It's like, people can call it therapy, whatever else, but That's the nature of it. It can be pilgrimage places where people like venture to go, like, oh, I would be wanting to go to this place and talk with people there. And it's subsidized by the government, subsidized by society, and additionally, so there are regulations, there are requirements. If people that trip out and like they've been breaking the rules, they can go to a halfway house, they can go to a halfway facility, and like either get some rehabilitation and like get back on the path and requalify to return to the campus, or the housing, or whatever else, or get introduced and reacclimated into mainstream society. So it's not just some kind of like guarantee or whatever. But anyways, that's the idea. That's it. This is the mukbang. That's it. I'm bouncing because I got to. So I'm going to say a concluding blessing for the meal, for the food, and then bouncing. Bounce. Here it is. Alhamdulillah, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao ke dao fei cheng dao. Ming ke ming fei cheng ming. Já Rastafari. Deus nos daqui a sincera Santa Fakita no mantum Vahiku Salam. Baruch Ata Elohim Eloheinu melech halam hamutz lachem min haaretz. Amen. Kyrie eleison seva mastu save jekatahim sabe sata bavantu suki tata vagabia. Aquaba upendo na amani fakiri nisilami chinta dam paramen lebe of me womajeka. Ubuntu shabondo fakithka. Sheshe, kamosanida, domo arigato, pilamaye lo wakan toko lokoshin go madagan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jamya yata afanami. Mado, aho, om shanti. Amen. Respect and honor to His Majesty, Haile Selassie. Respect and honor to Her Majesty, Waizara. Respect and honor to all our ancestors, all our prophets, all our sages, past and present, known and unknown. All thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim. Blessed love and peace of Rastafari.